This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
Today, the Kia Sportage Hybrid has up to 839 kilometers of driving range, so you can drive an SUV with great fuel economy. And today, technology makes every ride more convenient, with features like available remote smart parking assist to get you in and out of tight spaces. 25 years of innovating in Canada has led to today. The Kia Sportage Hybrid. Get great lease and finance offers today. Visit kia.ca for details.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
This episode of Krista Makes a Podcast is dedicated to the memory of Steve Harwell.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
Hey gang, today's guest is songwriter and lead guitarist Greg Camp from the San Jose, California rock band Smash Mouth. Together we break down the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the mega hit single All-Star, taken from their 1999 album Astro Lounge. I had a feeling Greg was a fellow music nerd, and I wasn't wrong. What a pleasure to talk to. It was the 11th hour for Smash Mouth. Hot off the heels of their breakout hit single, Walking on the Sun, the band had just recorded a brand new record and handed it in to the powers that be at Interscope Records. The label felt that the record didn't have a bona fide hit or lead single. So that's when Greg went back and wrote All-Star, a song that bears little to no resemblance of the band's first hit. A bold move that can sometimes lead to disastrous results, but not here. All-Star quickly became the biggest song of the band's career. Greg, along with the producer Eric Valentine, were like mad scientists in the studio, with Greg filling me in on some really cool studio wizardry. So for all this and a lesson in climate change, don't touch that thermostat. I mean, dial.
Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing well. All technical issues aside.
Hey, man, you know, we're musicians. We're not supposed to be perfect on the technical side. We leave that to other people. But thanks so much for being here. It's been a minute. Had tons of listeners asking for you. This is going on our fourth year here, and we finally got you in the hot seat talking about the song All-Star today. And before we begin, I just want to give my heartfelt condolences to you on the passing of Steve Harwell. I'm really sorry about your friend and your bandmate.
Thank you so much for saying that. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Right on. We played with you guys all the way back in 1997 at some crazy radio show. I think it was in Sacramento. It was like you and us. You were working the Walking on the Sun single at the point. You, us, Blink, maybe Sugar Ray, Dance Hall Crashers, I think were there. And it was just that period in the late 90s. You know, I was kind of, and my listeners have heard me talk about this, a little too punk for school, you know, and when this song came out to me, it was just like, it was so big. It was so massive that it was another radio song to me, and I kind of filed it over here. And I'm not saying this because you're in front of me. My producer, Chris, can vouch. I was texting him last night, and I was like, my gosh, we talk about it all the time on this podcast about memories attached to song. And those memories really happen because of the passage of time. And this song, man, it takes me back to the summer of 99 when it was released. It was everywhere. It was a song to me at the time that was kind of over here, periphery, on the radio. It was huge. And when I started to really dissect this song and get into it and break it down like we're going to do here in a second, all those memories came back of when I was 25 years old that summer. We were out on our first full Warped Tour, our second record for Capitol Records. Nobody in my life had died yet. I had my parents. I had most of my friends, very few people. And what a trip down memory lane. And again, not saying this because you're in front of me. I absolutely love this track. You're a brilliant songwriter, and I can't wait to get into this. Take us back to writing All-Star, and thank you for sending the demo, by the way.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure. Every time I talk about the song, something new comes up, in the actual process of, writing it. And there's a couple things that I've never actually discussed out loud in an interview like this before, which I'm going to get into. And that's one of the reasons
Oh, wow.
I wanted to send you the demo, because I just kind of felt like it was time to sort of, get it out there and say, here's where it started. And then there's where it went,
Well, the demo is incredible because you're credited as the sole songwriter on All Star, but the demo's identical except for the first line of the chorus. Basically, the arrangement's the same. It says, "Hey now, get your game on. You're an all-star. Go play." Versus what the lyric became, which is, "Hey now, you're an all-star." You get that lyric, the all-star lyric on the first line around. There was maybe a we that was going to be an I, things like that. But overall, it was all there. It was
Right.
exact.
Head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now, get your game on. You're an all-star. Go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get your show on. Go play. All that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. It's a cool place, and they say it gets cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think the I's and we's thing, that's of course the trick of including people into your music. It's an easy trick to change one word and all of a sudden everyone's involved and it becomes an anthem rather than, a poor me kind of thing. It's a poor us.
Did you guys, and I always ask this to people that have had a massive hit and came back and had an even bigger massive hit, but, following Walking on the Sun, did you feel any pressure?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there was.
You did?
Oh, yeah. I mean, everyone from, the media to haters to even people that worked at our record company and, were like, you're a one-hit wonder, right? And this is a terrible thing to say, but this is actually a quote. It's not my words. They're like, any retard can win the lottery. And I was like, you can't even say that. And you're saying that to us. Not only is that wrong, but it's very hurtful, And nobody expected us to have another thing. And which made me, and that's why, when I tell the story about All Star, that's one of the points of the process is basically, oh no, that's not going to happen. We're not a one-hit wonder band. We're going to keep going and watch this,
I love that. Yeah. And watch this, because the song was bigger. It became your signature and biggest song. I remember when it came out thinking, wow, these guys didn't carbon copy recreate their first hit.
Right.
It was completely different. And that wasn't lost on me then. And now it's even more admirable to me as a songwriter to go, wow, they really pivoted this way. It still retained the sound of the band, but it wasn't a carbon copy clone of the first tune.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think what happened was, we were all listening to like what was happening. We were big fans of Eminem and Tupac and like all this hip hop stuff. And that's what we listened to on the tour, probably like when we met you guys, that's what we were playing on the bus. It was all hip hop. And I got myself a little DJ setup, that I was like on tour and I was like trying to be a DJ. And so that's why you hear like some of those influences coming out, like the break beats of the actual song All Star. And then some of the whack DJ scratching is actually me. And it's very, a person who doesn't know how to do it, just watch this, waka, 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 go,
Yeah. Yeah. Who's the drunk guy that got in the DJ booth?
Exactly. That was me.
Yeah. Well, this song, and I had read a quote, and you definitely can't believe everything you read online, but the quote was that the label had come to you and said, hey, we need a song here. And I don't know if this is what they said or what you were thinking, but it was something to the effect of like, hey, Sugar Ray and this kind of stuff's on the radio. Maybe take a bite out of that page. And was that your quote? Was that something I read? Was that true?
Don't remember what was said or if I said it or who said it, but yeah, there was definitely, I guess what was happening was we were missing something from the radio personally, us and everyone in the band. We're like, what do we want to hear on the radio? Well, here's what we've been listening to. And, let's also keep in mind something that's going to be fun to play, in the summer. Let's get people bouncing. What should it be about? We've been reading. Do you remember Fan Mail?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when Fan Mail was happening, bass player Paul Delisle and I used to, take a sack of that and a sack of laundry and hit the laundromat and just go through mail. And the common thread was basically, thank you, Smash Mouth, for being a voice for us. Like we're being picked on for even liking you guys. It's like our punk friends think you're lame and our other friends think you're lame, and they think we're lame for liking you. And my brother is beating me up and my father's an alcoholic, and there's all these common problems. And we're like, wow, let's think about that, when we're writing this next record, and let's have a song that speaks to these people and something that everybody can kind of gather around. And we'd been picked on. We're musicians, of course. We're picked on by jocks our whole life, And so we were speaking from experience when, we were talking about some of these things. And, some of the things I'm realizing went even deeper than that now that I'm older.
Yeah.
Going through my life and like going, why do I do these things I do? What happened to me when I was younger? And so it's like a therapy session, like a big, long 50-something-year-old therapy session.
Sure. Well, and the reason I had asked about that quote, because I was, I've never heard of someone saying, yeah, I'm going to copy a hit and they have a hit. It just always fails. Maybe there's instances of it. I've never really heard it.
Right.
It doesn't work. Combine that with the fact that you already were coming off the heels of a massive song.
Exactly.
It was your breakout single. You're coming back. There was pressure that you've admitted to. Here you write a song that to me is a standalone track from your first single, and it blows up. You kind of did everything on your own merits and your own terms.
Right. I mean, sort of the key moment was we turned our album in finished, and it didn't have All Star on it, and it didn't have Then the Morning Comes, which was the second single.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Iovine and the other A&R people that worked at Interscope were like, we hear a great album, but we hear like a lot of third singles, fourth singles, deep cuts. It sounds like a great, album.
Yeah.
But we don't hear the first and second single. And so, and they flew me all the way to LA to tell me that. And then I flew away an hour later. It's like, how it was back then. Money was no object.
Yeah, they had money to spend, and they would spend it on absolutely anything.
Exactly. And so I went home and began listening to radio and looking at Billboard, and really not copying what was there, but going, what's missing? And that's kind of the beginnings of that song, and that's how it happened. It started with a break beat and a bass line, and that was it.
That's so cool. Well, speaking of that breakbeat, so Eric Valentine produced the record. He's also produced albums for Good Charlotte, Taking Back Sunday, Queens of the Stone Age, All-American Rejects, and many more. He's also a great drummer. And this was right about the time of the start of Pro Tools, but was this record done on Pro Tools or analog to tape?
A little of both, yeah. We would always...
A little of both, okay.
It would always hit tape at some point, but we would do a lot of editing, any sort of pitch correction, things like that in Pro Tools, but it would always end up on tape.
Yeah, and there's some tricks and some stuff here, but for the most part, it's a rock band with a couple flourishes. When I went back and really dissected this, there's not too much crazy production. There's some cool things, but the integrity of the four guys in the room is still there. The song was released on May 4th, 1999. It preceded the record by about a month. Astro Lounge was released June 8th, 1999. Song peaked at number 4 on the Hot 100 August 14th of 99. And the song is number 5 out of 15. Remember when bands put 15 songs on a record, Greg?
Oh, yeah. I was always going for 18, 20. I was like hip hop, They would release 30 songs,
Yeah, hip hop or Rancid. Rancid
exactly.
put like 26 songs on a single record, not a double album. All Stars, 3 minutes and 21 seconds. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you for going through this with me. This song means so much more to me now than it ever has. And I'm really stoked to break it down with you.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of dumb with her finger and her thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead. Well, the years start coming.
Somebody once told me, the world is going to roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. She was looking kind of dumb with her finger and her thumb in the shape of an L on her forehead. And yes, I'm sitting here in my studio the past 2 nights acting out what you're talking about in the lyrics and going, am I really doing this?
Well, I mean, if you remember, that was a big thing. I think Friends or one of those TV shows.
Yeah.
But here's where my therapy session will begin. And I'm going to say some things that I've never really put out there before. But back before there was a word for it, when I was in high school, I had a problem learning, especially with numbers. It was almost like a dyslexia with numbers. I was terrible at math. And so therefore I was put in that little double wide thing out in the parking lot of high school with like about 8 other kids because we had a learning disability, which they don't say that anymore. There's probably some sort of PC way of saying that now. And fast forward to later on in life, I was my girlfriend, the love of my life, like sort of like my Ava Gardner at the time. She got a hold of my yearbook and she opened it up and she saw that I was in a class that wasn't with the rest of, my class at my sophomore year. And she's like, "Were you in dumb class?" And I'm like, "Well, they didn't call it dumb class. It was like, learning disability or, whatever you want to call it, slow, whatever it was, slow learner." And it killed me, that she would say that to me. I was in love with this girl. And then, fast forward a little bit later, we're living together and she's going to work every morning at 6 a.m. and I stay up all night because I'm in a cover band and that's how I make my money. Way more money than she made, under the table, cash, sleeping all day, partying at night, playing music every night. And she basically just said, "What do you think that you're going to do with your life? You think you're going to like make it in music or something? You're like, you're a loser." And she actually did that. And I was like, this chick, it is nothing but hurtful to me. And I just can't stop loving her. But, something's got to change here. Anyway, I've carried that like throughout my whole life, this sort of like hurtful, comments that people have made. And when I started reading that fan mail and noticing that kids were going through the same sort of stuff that I was going through when I was younger, I'm like, okay, we need to have a dumb class, anthem here for people who don't feel like they belong or they feel, lesser than others or whatever. And so that's really how All Star, that first line that you just read, that's where that all comes from.
Man, this took a left turn. Never in my life would I have ever thought that this song was going in the direction. I love it. You never know. That's why I love doing this podcast. You never know where someone's coming from, and those lyrical interpretations. We can all take 100 different meanings from the same song. It's so beautiful. This first part of lyrics I wrote, just the first 3 lines, just a clean, chirpy guitar in the center right there with the bass, classic like 60s vibe. On the 3rd line, I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed. We get this spacey synthesizer flourish. I made that up. It kind of goes right to left, this little thing. On the next line, she was looking kind of dumb. A percussive hit on every beat comes in. Greg, it sounds like a 2x4 hitting a metal pipe in a tunnel that has a tambourine attached to it.
It's very possible that that's what happened. Eric Valentine, he took a Folgers can and stuck a microphone inside of it and would like bang things in front of it, and it would be unrecognizable what it was, and that's probably what that is.
That's probably what that is. It's the coolest sound, and it sounds like it's filtered. It's way back here in the mix, but where it sits, it's very intriguing. And on the line, in the shape of an L on her forehead, a whooshing sound fades up in the mix, and the start of kind of almost sounds like a processed drum loop kind of comes up in the mix, and then the drums hit for the next stanza of lyrics.
Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I'll hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow.
Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb.
Mm-hmm. It's sort of leapfrogging from the last bit. It's like, well, I don't want to have a day job. I don't want to get up at 6 a.m. This person who was calling me a loser did not seem happy with doing that. In fact, she was so unhappy that she was, pointing her anger at me. And I'm like, well, I'm I'm not going to do what everyone else does. I'm just going to keep on doing music, and whatever happens, happens. I'm going to commit, and I'm all in, and that's it.
Well, in this part, the drums, bass, and that chirpy guitar is now panned off to the right. It's no longer in the center, and we are joined by another guitar panned off left. This guitar is a clean guitar following the bass guitar. It's it's textbook 101 simple, but it's so awesome. It's so perfect.
Yeah, that's like very like, I'm a big fan of like Glenn Campbell and like 60s music and the Crew, and that's just something that Carol Kay and all these people used to do together.
There's something about that, again, that, it's kind of lost, the simplicity of that. And I went and watched live videos from the band from this time period. And, you got keyboards having on stage, but it's still just the bass doing it. You don't need it live, okay? It's coming at you 105 dB or whatever. But in the recording here, I absolutely love it. I'm going to read the next part. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow.
Which isn't one of my best moments, I don't think. I think I'm like, I guess it rhymes.
Really? You don't like that line? I love it. I love the second part about the glow.
Right.
I think it's great.
I mean, it's really just you gotta just jump in the water, You really just gotta go do it. You gotta commit. If there's something you love, you gotta do it. Don't have something to fall back on is really what I'm saying.
I'm smiling ear to ear because this song to me was just this positive kind of, smiley anthem. That's what I heard when I initially heard it. It was a radio song. And man, to hear you talk about the inspiration behind the lyrics, it's just goosebumps for days, man. It's
a little darker.
I love that.
A little darker than you would expect. And there's also the original lyrics I have written down are even darker. I had to actually lighten it up a little bit. I'm like, this isn't going to help anybody. This is just me being pissed off,
Yeah.
And so it did get a nice big edit.
Well, when the band comes in here, I forgot to mention on the last stanza of lyrics and this one, the double vocal happens off the top of the song. It sounds like a single vocal, but a double comes in there. Is that correct?
Which part of the song? The chorus?
The year starts coming and they don't stop coming. That part. That's when it sounds like a double vocal.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome. On the line, you'll never know if you don't go. There's a record scratch. And then you get is it go or yo?
It's go. It's from
Is it go?
It's an astronaut record, it's real audio from a moon landing.
Okay. So it's a real sample that I think you use later in the musical interlude.
Right.
Okay, that's awesome. On the line, you'll never shine if you don't glow. There's this like, it's like, sounds like a baritone sax or low horns going,
Glow. Hey now, you're an all-star.
It's just a guitar sliding up to the note.
It is.
Yep.
Okay, because later on I hear that it's like a row before the very last chorus, but I didn't think that that's what it was here. Very cool. Like I said, it almost sounds like a baritone sax or something. And then we're into chorus 1 at the 38-second mark.
Glow. Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold. It's a cool.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Where do I begin?
I'd like to begin before you talk about the lyrics, just this chord progression. I don't know exactly because I had it capo, but it's like G, C, and then you go to this C minor diminished chord back to the C. It is awesome.
Right. It's really just the 007 thing, but it's not minor. It's major,
Right. Okay.
And you're really just, when you go to the C, you just go up to the D flat or C sharp, and you keep the C chord open. And it just kind of gives it a weird, like a tension of some sort.
It's so great. And you said 007, and you made me laugh again because I had 007, Dragnet, and Hawaii 5-0 written down. This song, especially the music interlude, we'll get to it. It has elements of those, and then like this hip hop thing. And I think back to like What's Happening, like that 70s show, and like the whistling part. We'll get to it later, but the chorus, again, the lyric, hey, now you're an all-star, get your game on, go play. Hey, now you're a rock star, get the show on, get paid, and all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. What's happening here, Greg?
Yeah, it's kind of like your self-affirmation, like looking at yourself in the mirror and basically just going, I'm okay. These people are wrong. I'm just going to go for it. And, only shooting stars break the mold. It just means go change the world somehow in a little way or a big way. Just go do something positive.
Well, in chorus 1, the drums, bass guitar, electric guitar panned off right, and it sounds like acoustic guitars are here in this chorus. Am I hearing that right?
In that chorus, I think that happens maybe in the third verse.
It does happen in the third verse. Definitely, right. You get those acoustics. I thought maybe there was an acoustic playing along here. There's definitely some low keyboard pads, like hums, that are in here. And that guitar panned off right is also playing like these chick mutes. Kind of palm mute chick that's happening off to the right. And on the line, and all that glitters is gold. I wrote in the notes here, is that you singing? It doesn't sound like Steve right there.
It is. I think he may have even taken that off of the demo, because Eric did that a lot. He would put my demo into the session and we would just replace things that needed to be replaced, like drums and vocals and things like that. But some of the stuff ended up, from my demo, ended up on the actual song.
Well, I went and watched a bunch of live videos and you'd both be singing it. It was hard to discern if that was just you. Here it sounded like it was a different voice. So, okay. And it sounds like it's filtered on that line. Like there's something processed there to make that line stick out.
You're correct.
I love Stars break. On break, we go to that F chord. And just something about going to that F there before we resolve back to C. I just absolutely love it. And the kick and the hi-hat hit 4 times here as the rest of the band rings out over to resolve the chorus to set up for verse 2.
It's a cool place, and they say it gets colder. You're bundled up now, wait till you get older. But the media men beg to differ, judging by the hole in the satellite picture. The ice we skate is getting pretty thin. The water's getting warm, so you might as well swim. My world's on fire, how about yours? That's the way I like it, and I'll never get bored.
It's a cool place, and they say it gets colder. You're bundled up now, wait till you get older. But the meteor men beg to differ, judging by the hole in the satellite picture. The ice we skate is getting pretty thin. The water's getting warm, so you might as well swim. My world's on fire. How about yours? That's the way I like it, and I never get bored.
So, some of that is obviously, back then it was global warming is what we called it in the 90s. They have all kinds of different names for it now. But that's kind of what that was saying, was basically just, I guess, enjoy your youth. You will age. Things do get harder as we get older, and we're finding that out now. And also, take care of the planet. These are just suggestions coming from a guy, in his garage writing a song. But pay attention, be present, And
excuse my forwardness here. How does that have to do with what you started about in this song? How did you get there?
I think it's like, well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. You're basically, you're young, these terrible things are happening to you when you're a child and in high school, and you got bullies and everything else. And then all of a sudden you get older and it starts getting a little harder in different ways. It doesn't really have a ton to do with what was already said, but I think chronologically it's like, okay, here's what's next. You think that was bad. Here's what's next. So let's just be present, get the best out of it you can, and, be good to each other and be good to the planet.
It's kind of it's almost accusatory to ask another songwriter, like, why did you go there? But it's intriguing to me. Like, wow. Like, I always say that about this show, how my appreciation for bands, songs that I kind of was dismissive about, that every time I get a song under the microscope, I don't care who's done it, what it is, I find something unique and intriguing. I couldn't have done it. I'm not that human being. I absolutely love that about songwriting.
So don't delay, act now, supplies are running out.
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Greg Camp after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service. that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits, to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with the Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. Hey friends, have you been loving Chris DeMakes a podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the wrap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
And now, back to the show.
Here in verse 2, same overall instrumentation as verse 1, except for an almost flute-like sound. It's like single hits that happen on the 2 and 4. Doot, doot.
Now wait till you get older, but the media man begs to differ, judging by the hole in the satellite picture. The ice we skate.
Sounds like a processed flute.
It's a B3.
Is it a B3?
It's a B3, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And it probably sounds fluty because, you can do that with a real B3.
I know you play keyboards. Did you play the keyboards in this record? Did Eric Valentine? Do you recall?
Eric Valentine played on this one.
He did. Okay.
Yeah.
And would you be in there for that? Those, usually we do those little flourishes at the end, the bells and whistles we call them, but were you there and did he kind of play over everything and you picked and chose your parts in mixing?
Yeah, he just had ideas. We both had ideas, and he and I were in the studio more than anyone else in the band. Most of the guys would just come when it was their day to do their thing, but they weren't nerdy. Like Eric and I could nerd out for hours just listening to a Lawrence Welk record. And so some of those things, like we would hear something and go, hey, let's try to find that. Let's make that sound, and I'm not kidding about the Lawrence Welk thing. That was a huge influence.
No, I didn't. I didn't think you were kidding. No, not at all. I just laughed because I can relate to that. Not a lot of bands, we have this picture of bands in a studio, SNL. You'll see the cowbell scene where they're all around a microphone playing at the same time. It just doesn't work like that usually.
Not usually.
There's usually one guy heading the charge, and the other guys will come and play their parts. Chorus 2 comes right off of verse 2.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. All that glitter and gold. Only shooting stars bring the
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. On chorus 2, there's no and. It just says, all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. So again, that tells me it wasn't copied and pasted or something in Pro Tools, or even the tape wasn't cut and taped somewhere else or pasted somewhere else. Do you recall having that conversation? Why there was no and there?
I don't, but it didn't seem like it needed to be there.
Yeah.
Now listening back,
Those little things too, they always trip me out. I'm like, why there? Why wasn't it in the other ones?
It could also be a mistake. Who knows?
Yeah, well, that's a lot of times too. A lot of times the mixer will take a wrong take, or the producer put a wrong tape up for the mixer to mix in. Chorus 2, this chorus, barring the word "and," is nearly identical to chorus 1, but I hear. I can't explain it, Greg. It's like a high-end frequency here, almost like a percussive tambourine. There's like a high-end shriek on this chorus that I didn't hear on chorus 1.
We have one of our secret weapons. It's still a secret weapon of mine, is a Furman spring reverb. It's an old rack mount reverb that's just springs inside of it. And I actually got it at a garage sale for $2. I know. And I just use it on all kinds of stuff like that because it's just very odd. And now I hear people like Vampire Weekend's new record. I can hear it on there. I've heard it on MGMT.
Oh, okay.
Like super nerdy studio people have this thing, and it does that. It makes everything just kind of have this crazy sound.
It sounds like that came on this chorus. It's so cool. I love little things like that. And for everybody listening, basically what Greg's talking about is you'd have this gear. In this case, it was an old reverb effect that just does something. You put it on. Certain gates will do that. Certain delays will do, like, what am I hearing? And you'll solo it out. And it was from the vocal delay. It wasn't an instrument that was in the mix. Coming off of chorus 2, I think this part's genius. It's a 16-bar instrumental interlude. This is the part where I was like, okay, it's kind of like one part, what's happening, mixed with kind of a hip-hop feel, which makes total sense for what you were saying earlier. You guys were listening to a lot of hip-hop, which I can hear, but I also hear that Hawaii 5-0 007 thing here with what the guitars and the bass are doing.
Go for the moon. Go for the moon.
Someone here is whistling a melody that is in unison with a xylophone, or is that a glockenspiel? I don't know the difference between those two.
I think it actually may have been a toy piano.
Was
in there.
Was it?
I think it may have been. But yeah, we did have a glockenspiel, and we also had tubular bells that we used to use a lot, like real tubular bells.
Yeah.
And we had vibes too that we had rented. I don't know if they were used on this song. I can't remember now.
Okay, well, that whistling's happening with that toy piano in unison. Sounds like really blown out foot stomps are here. Again, that could be that spring reverb you're talking about. I'm hearing like this.
Yeah, there was no foot stomps, but I think what you're hearing is the breakbeat is being filtered. And so you're just picking up the low end of that breakbeat.
Ah, it's so cool. The bass guitar and that clean guitar panned off left are now playing in unison too. That does something here. With those two things playing in unison, with that whistle playing in unison with the toy piano, they're doing this to my brain. I know the listeners can't see me, but it's like a ping pong match. I'm going back and forth. What those two things in unison do with each other when they clash is awesome.
One of the things that Eric really liked to do was basically just strip everything away and just pan things so they had their own universe.
Right.
And so you could hear everything. It sounds like a lot's going on, but there's really not very much. It's very stripped down.
Bingo. But still, it gets my head kind of swirling this part. Again, reminds me of 007 Dragnet. It's very suspenseful, those guitar and the bass following each other there. The drums come in from bar 5 to bar 16. And on bar 4, panned off to the right, we get that sample you're speaking of, Go for the Moon. And then we get a Go, Go, Go panned off left. And this happens for a couple times until the very last one, we hear like a record scratch and a super loud Go for the Moon panned off left, another Go, Go, and then we get a Go for the Moon that now comes center. I love, you're talking about the panning a second ago. I love the panning that's happening there.
It's a key thing, balance, EQ, and where you're placing whatever you're trying to get in there, and you're EQing it so it's there and you can notice it and you can hear it, but it's not overbearing. It's just something that Eric's really, really good at.
You ever got mixes back from 2 or 3 different guys? We used to get test mixes, but we don't know who we want to go with. We'd have mixes come back, and each one's different and they hit you different. And usually one stands out and you're like, that's the one. There's something about that mixing. That's why these guys get paid to do what they do.
Exactly. I mean, some mixers do it, to toot their own horn, and some people do it for the song, and that's probably the one you went for, the one where they serviced the song and not themselves,
Right. Well, this whole 16 bar instrumental part, it's basically just the chorus riff over and over, the chords going underneath there, and then we get into a full chorus 3.
Go for the hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star, get the show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold, only shooting stars. Somebody wants.
Hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star, get the show on, get paid. And we get an and here, but this time on the line, all that glitters is gold, it goes to falsetto there. Only shooting stars. We don't get the break the mold there, and it ends on that F before we go to verse 3. It hangs on that, which is awesome. How'd the falsetto part come about?
I don't know. I think I just did that on my demo.
Show on, get paid. All that glitters is gold, only shooting stars.
That might even be me singing that. I think that's Paul and I singing it on the record together. It just seems like it needed a lift there. And so, that's what instinct told me to do.
Right.
So.
You guys were a young band at this point. The fact that your producer was pulling off demos is pretty cool. We've started doing that probably in the last 10 years because our demos have gotten good enough. So we'll get in and be like, hey, why are you trying to beat that vocal? That bridge vocal is awesome. Let's just fly it in here and we'll give it the treatment and do it. But as an early songwriter, that's really cool that this was going on with you guys. He was able to lift stuff from the demos, which, as I told you at the top, the demo was identical arrangement-wise, melody-wise to the finished product, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I've been, recording since I was a kid. My dad had, reel-to-reel tape decks around the house and turntables and stuff and old microphones and things. And so I've been recording, seems like, since I was in, 8th grade.
Well, you kind of had mentioned earlier, because I was talking about, I thought I was hearing acoustics in the chorus. Well, it's definitely here in verse 3. My favorite verse of the song. Something happens here. It's another verse, but it's not like, oh, here's another verse. It's another world. That acoustic guitar really does something here.
Somebody wants, ask, could I spare some change for gas? I need to get myself away from this place. I said, yep, what a concept. I could use a little fuel myself, and we could all use a little change. Well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I'll hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see. So what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. Hey now.
Somebody once asked, could I spare some change for gas? I need to get myself away from this place. I said, yep, what a concept. I could use a little fuel myself, and we could all use a little change. Well, the years start coming, and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules, and I hit the ground running. Didn't make sense not to live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb. So much to do, so much to see, so what's wrong with taking the back streets? You'll never know if you don't go. You'll never shine if you don't glow. And the only stanza here is the very first one that is different. Everything else comes from verse 1 here. Talk about that.
Right.
Did you felt there was enough information and it's catchy enough to, because this verse is darn near a chorus to me. It's so catchy.
I do remember I had an epiphany. I was up in San Francisco and a homeless person asked me if I could spare some change. And I remember I heard it differently for the first time. Like, I've been asked for change a million times, but I went, change. That's what this guy actually needs. He needs to change, not currency change. He needs to change something. And so, of course, I probably gave him some money or some food or something or a cigarette or whatever. But I walked away going, yeah, we could all use some change, And I remember going, I'm going to use that in a song someday. And it seemed like this was the perfect spot to use that. And then by putting that last part of the verse that I stole from another part of the song was basically, okay, now we're going to hear this in a different way. Same words, but you're going to listen to it differently this time.
Did you think about that consciously then?
Yes.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Again, I've done that. I've never known if I've consciously thought like, yeah, it has to come back to the first verse. It's going to tie everything together. I know I put the first verse again for the second or third verse. A lot of times out of laziness, you can't best it. That'll be sometimes, it's just going to be the same lyric. But here it sounds like you had some forethought of, hey, we're going to change this first stanza, but it's going to lead into why. It's going to make sense from that first verse. I think that's awesome songwriting.
It's still chronological. You're still going through a life, and you can apply that to any life. And, once you say, we could all use a little change. And then you go back to years start coming. Okay, this is happening again. They're time the Avenger. It's still going to happen. Mm-hmm. And you never know if you don't go.
A lot of old vaudeville singers would use certain inflections, and I love little change, how there's a lot of emphasis on that. David Lee Roth would do it in Hot for Teacher. He would say, hey, the clock is slow. He'd really slow down his delivery, and that's what I took from this line. It really stands out there. I love it. Again, I mentioned this is my favorite verse of the song. Drums, bass, and a guitar ghosting the bass is slightly off right. Not that loud like it was prior, because there's an acoustic guitar playing an arpeggiated picking part panned off to the left. On the next loop of lyrics, well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. Fed to the rules and I hit the ground running. An electric guitar panned off right joins in, playing with the acoustic guitar. It's doubling what that part is playing off left, and the melody changes on these first three lines. I love it.
Yeah, I think that was just to sort of lift and make it a little more interesting. I did it on the demo too. I think you listened to it.
Yes, I did. I noticed that, again, the integrity of the demo was all there. All the components were there. The arpeggiated acoustic part I was just talking about. Do you remember whose idea it was to double it with the electric? It's awesome.
Probably Eric's.
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah. It's so cool. On the second to last line, you'll never know if you don't go. You get a gang vocal on go right there. You'll never shine if you don't glow. And that's where I hear that's where the guitars, you can really hear that they're guitars. Prior to that, I didn't really know what they were. They kind of sounded masked.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold. And all that glitters is gold. Only shooting stars break the mold.
Then we end on the C chord. We don't resolve back to the root note. And
right.
I'm a sucker for I call it the cliffhanger. I'm a sucker for the non-resolve. I absolutely love it because it makes me feel like I need to circle around and go back and listen to the song again. I might have missed something.
Right. And I think that last chord is actually like a C major 7 or something, which makes it kind of pretty and sad. And I always, whenever I hear that at the end of the song, I want to go shoo-ba-doo-wah, well, all of David Lee Roth.
I was going to say you and David should get together for that part, but I know label pressures. I had them. You got to keep up with the Joneses. Who's on the charts? Hey, you had a hit in the last record, although we never had a hit like you guys had. But Walking on the Sun, you admitted you had this pressure. You write this song now in the 11th hour, and you hand it to the label. What did they think initially?
I think they said you did it. We told you to go write a first and second single, and you did. And so, good job. Thanks. We'll see you on the road.
You got all 15 songs back. They're mixed. You're doing the car test. You're driving up the 101 wherever you're at the time. Probably listening to a cassette, maybe a CD.
Actually, Highway 1.
Highway 1. Okay, so you're on 1. You're on the old Pacific Coast Highway, and you're cruising down listening. Did this song stand out to you out of the 15? You're like, oh yeah, this has to go to radio first.
Well, I remember when I took the demo. I'm going to back up a little bit. Paul Delisle was at our favorite little dive bar in Santa Cruz, and I went there. I knew I could find him there. I don't even think we had cell phones, but I knew where he would be, and I went there and And I said, hey, check this out. We went out to his truck and we put it on, and we both started laughing so hard. We're like, holy shit, this is going to be, this is going to be a long tour. You know, we just knew right away that, and that was just the demos. So yeah, when we got the record back and we were listening to it, after mastering, I always went to mastering with Eric, and, you know, just listening to it in the car, like you said, and like just kind of cruising around listening to it. I'm like, I don't know why people wouldn't like this. And, you know, the only reason they wouldn't is because they didn't want to, you know?
Yeah, well, that's a great point. I think I was part of that team. I don't want to get it. I was too cool for school. I was 23 years old, whatever, when it came out. And time has an interesting way of changing your perspective. I absolutely think this song is the smash that it was and continues to be, man. So absolute congratulations to you.
I appreciate that. And while you were saying that, you know, when we did this song, you know, and I was talking to Eric, and I don't know if you've ever heard this term, but he's like, this is going to change everything for you guys. You know, it's like, if you were ever trying to have any sort of credibility, it's going to be gone. And he's like, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube after this. And I was like, well, I think I'm cool with it. You know, I had a little taste of success, and I knew that none of my punk rock friends liked my band. And so it was over anyway.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, I looked at this song with fresh eyes. I was giddy. I told Chris, my producer, last night, I said, I can't wait to dive into this. There's some great songwriting going on here. I absolutely love it. And before we break, I want you to leave the audience with what you have coming up. Man, you're busy. You play and sing with the Santa Cruz band, the Maids of Honor, and you're also in the Selectics from LA, as well as you co-founded the Defiant with Mr. Dickie Barrett, an old buddy of mine, and you guys are out doing your thing with that. And before I forget, and I want you to plug your stuff here, I keep meaning to bring up, you guys are from San Jose. Did you ever play the Cactus Club? You had to have.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Yeah.
I had to give a shout out to the Cactus, man.
Scarier bathroom than CBGB's.
I will. I'll give you that. But what's going on with Mr. Greg Camp?
I just do some producing here, and I live in Nashville. I do some developing and producing with younger artists, and her name is Jackie Evenko, and we just released an EP that you can check out now. She was a child opera singer prodigy that, you know, when she turned 20, decided that she wanted to, you know, get into alternative music or actually release that sort of music. And so I became her producer. Doing that, working with the Defiant, which is Dickie Barrett from the Boss Tones, and Pete Parada from the Offspring, Joey from the Briggs, and Johnny from Street Dogs. And we're sort of like this funny little super group. And that was put together by probably someone you know, Joe Sib.
Of course.
Yeah, he sort of called all of us and said, hey, you guys are all sitting around doing nothing. Why don't you start a band? And so we did, and it just snowballed.
That's awesome.
It's been great. Just got off a tour with Me First and the Gimme Gimmes, and we have a few shows coming up, some festivals and things like that. But yeah, the Defiant. And there's a record out.
My friends saw you down in Florida. They said you were great.
Cool. Who's your friend?
My friend Kirk. He was just here last night. He came up. He was driving to Michigan. I live in Tennessee, so I live on the other side of you. I'm over in Knoxville area.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and he told me he just saw you guys. He didn't know that Dickie was in the band till Dickie walked out. He's like, what? So he was surprised.
We saw that a lot. We noticed that a lot. I'm going to fold my arms because we walk out and people would fold their arms like this, and then all of a sudden they'd go, oh,
yeah.
Wait, is that who I think it is? You know, and then all of a sudden they loved it because everybody loves Dickie. You know?
Sure.
So.
Awesome, Greg. Well, hey, man, thank you so much for taking the time to sit in with us today. I really
Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it, and it's good to see you again.
I thought that today was my last. Can't stop crying. I keep trying today.
Hey everybody, the song you're hearing underneath me right now is Can't Stop Crying from the Defiant. Go check them out. I hope you all enjoyed today's episode with Greg Camp, but don't go anywhere. We got a lot more Chris DeMakes a Podcast coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
I'm Victoria Cash. Thanks for calling the Lucky Land Hotline. If you feel like you do the same thing every day, press 1. If you're ready to have some serious fun for the chance to redeem some serious prizes, press 2. We heard you loud and clear. So go to LuckyLandSlots.com right now and play over 100 social casino-style games for free. Get lucky today at LuckyLandSlots.com.
Available to players in the U.S., excluding Washington and Michigan. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey there, Chris DeMakes a Podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at ChrisDeMakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalius and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at ChrisDeMakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumightnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Where the Crows Fly, a collaborative project headed by drummer Dave Roth, hailing from Newquay, Cornwall, United Kingdom, mixing elements of 90s alt-rock and feel-good hooks. You can find them on the socials at Where the Crows Fly Band. Here's a snippet of their song, What You Wanted.
Though we're destined to change, you're still playing the game. All the memories that you made, all the nights you've laid to waste, it's what you wanted. All the lines upon your face and all the cracks you can't erase, it's what you wanted. Nothing time to
The Rap with Chris and Chris.
So, Chris, hearing Greg talk about that first verse, especially, and the inspiration for it, was simultaneously heartbreaking and also inspiring. I know that, he's recalling this story, and yeah, that happened a little later in life, but I know personally, I probably remember every bad, insulting thing someone has said to me in my life. I don't care if it's something about the way you look, your intelligence, your anything, your music or something. You remember those things, and the way he was able to use that for inspiration for this enormous song, that's just inspiring to me personally as a songwriter, and I hope to anybody who's listening to this episode. I thought that was amazing.
Well, I mean, I already thought the song was amazing. I'll say it again, the passage of time. There's something about this song. I listen to it now, it just makes me feel good. It takes me back to a time where I was way more carefree. All those bad firsts hadn't happened yet. Losing family members, losing friends, and the fact that he came up with that inspiration out of those lyrics for this first verse, and then where it went to the second verse, and then how it tied up in the third verse. And I point blank asked him, I'm like, was this conscious? Was this were you conscientious of this when you were? He's like, yeah. I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, the whole song, like he said, is a big self-affirmation. It's looking in the mirror and you're saying these things to yourself. And also the fact that he was not only inspired by something that happened in his personal life, but also all the fan mail they were receiving from people that felt like outsiders. So he wanted to do something to make people feel better. I mean, I just think it's awesome. It's just such a cool backstory.
It's almost like the fan mail was an affirmation to what he was feeling. It was all kind of circular at that point. But let's talk about following up Walking on the Sun. That wasn't a small song.
Yeah, the pressure's on in those instances. And like you said, this song's it's a different type of song for sure. It doesn't sound anything like that song, which, that's kind of taken a swing. Maybe people wanted them in that sort of throwback 60s vibe of Walking on the Sun. Maybe that's what people expected from them. Maybe that's what the record label expected from them. But this song's a whole other thing. And the fact that they were able to find success with both styles of songs. That's awesome.
Had I had a huge hit at that age, I think I would have followed it up with something similar to the first one. I just know myself. I at that age, at least, I wouldn't have taken a step out of bounds and tried to throw a Hail Mary, and he did, and he succeeded.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. When you have a hit, I don't know how. I've never had a hit, so I don't know how I would react, but I would probably want another one. I'm sure the more you have, the more you want. Chris, I thought it was cool. We've heard this before on here, but it's so cool when you have elements of the original demo put into the actual recording, which you did note is maybe a little easier to do nowadays, but they were doing this back in the late 90s. It wasn't as easy at that time to do that.
No, and I can't recall off the top of my head. We've had a few guests on here who were like, oh man, it was a nightmare. I had to take the original demo, but it was at a different speed. So I had to go and I had to speed it up so it would fit the tempo of the current song we were recording. And I don't know if they had to go to those lengths with this, but yeah, using stuff with the demos is so awesome. My band, we haven't really started doing that till recently, only because our demos and recording quality has gotten good enough in the last 10, 15 years where we can do that. But the fact they were doing this right on the cusp of Pro Tools is really cutting edge and cool.
Yeah, I also, Chris, I don't know if you took note of this. I thought maybe you were going to bring this up. It's wild how many times lately on our show that we've heard about someone being inspired lyrically by an unhoused person. And I was thinking about how that makes sense. I mean, I'm referring to presidents of the United States of America.
Yeah.
And also this episode. And I was thinking that makes sense because when you see someone that's struggling like that, you got to be made of stone not to be affected by that in some way, and I could see that being such a lyrical inspiration because, you can't help but wonder why this person is in the situation they're in. You can't help but feel fortunate that you're not. I mean, there's a thousand different things that can inspire, In this situation, it was we could all use a little change line, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, and considering how much they were on the road at that point, you can attest to this when you're a lot of times in huge metropolitan areas with a large population that doesn't have a place to sleep, and we see that a lot, and that will of course creep into songs sometimes, but how he got from point A to point C in this song. Wow. It's never would have thought. This was just kind of like a cutesy pop song to me that I thought about this a lot this morning. I was careful with my words with Greg. I didn't want to offend or come off weird, but this song wasn't on my radar. And 25 years removed, the writing's brilliant. It's so catchy. When I put it on, it makes me feel good, man. And that's what music's supposed to do.
Yeah. I talk all the time too, man, about being too cool for things that were popular at the time. I mean, when you're a teen or early 20s or something, you could be a music snob for sure. I'm sure to a certain extent, I'm still a music snob about certain things, but I think as you mature, as you grow older, you open your mind to more and more things. And hey, maybe 10 or 20 years from now, Chris, we're going to be open-minded to even more things than we are now, So I hope that this show has served, I know that this show has served that way. People have told me that they have songs that they didn't like or didn't care about or didn't know about, that this show helped people open their eyes to them. So if we've done anything, we've done that.
That's what we strive for since we started this. We wanted to be all inclusive, not just be in the punk rock world that we came from. We gotta branch out. We've had some great artists. Thanks to everybody out there for listening. And if you'd like to help Chris and I keep the lights on here at Chris DeMakes a Podcast, head over to ChrisDeMakes.com. That's our supporting cast, where you can get bonus episodes of the after party each week. Yes, you can hear Chris and I talk even more than we already have. ChrisDeMakes.com. And give Chris Fafalius a follow on Instagram at Chris Fafalius. And I'm at Less Than Chris D. Want to thank this week's guest, Greg Camp, for sitting in with us. And we'll see you next week.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the one-hit thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
Hi, this is Chad Nicefield.
And this is Justin Press.
We're the host of Making Waves, the Shiprock podcast, a part of the Sound Talent Media Podcast Network. We're inviting you to sail away with us on an epic journey in musical enlightenment. Every week, we bring you only the best artists in rock music and discuss everything from the cruise, to the stage, to the saga of being a professional recording artist. We'll have lots of special guests along the way, so tune in every week.
Your stateroom is available every Monday morning, so welcome aboard.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.